The Shintaro Higashi Show is sponsored by Judo TV, your premier destination for live and on-demand judo coverage. Never miss a throw. Higashi brand. Train hard, live strong, wear Higashi brand. Hakuin AI. Hakuin AI helps you measure, predict, and solve customer churn. Visit Hakuin AI and start your free churn audit today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show with David Kim. We have a very, very special guest. We have Kevin here. Kevin's a jiu-jitsu brown belt. Sorry, I almost said purple. Kevin's a brown belt now, and I see him at Essential. We trained together alongside David, and he has a very, very interesting gig. So, yeah, welcome, man. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin has a super interesting background, and as we mentioned in some earlier episodes, it's always interesting, as much as we like for everyone to be the same on the mat when they put on the gi or the spandex, depending on what you like. It's always interesting to talk to people about their off the mat life, and I think Kevin splits his time between like billionaires and choking people on the mat, and he's had a long career writing about the yachting world. He's written for Yachting Magazine, New York Times, GQ. He's written in submarines and the largest yachts, I guess, on the planet, really.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of this weird soup that he's concocted for his life. And so I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation.
It's a flip.
Yeah. So you're the yacht guy. Yeah. How did you get into that in the first place?
The yacht fella. The yacht guy is another guy.
The yacht fella. Sorry, I'm sorry.
How did I get into it?
So, yeah, tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for 16 years, covering boats and yachts. I started off with smaller boats as a associate editor at a boating magazine that you've probably never heard of called Power and Motor Yacht. And I did that for 6 years, and I got poached by their competitor, and I moved over there and was the executive editor at Yachting Magazine for a while. And then I left there in a ball of fury during the pandemic and told everybody to get lost, and not such nice words, and struck out on my own 5 years ago. Started doing freelance, and very quickly got picked up by the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. I was writing for Esquire and GQ, but GQ was actually about combat sports. Esquire, I was writing about being a dad, philosophy. I wrote stoicism and all this kind of stuff for them, but most yachts.
Nice.
And then where it got really interesting was just a little over 2 years ago. I had my Instagram just blew up out of nowhere. I went from basically 0 followers to thousands and thousands of followers within a few days. And 2 years later, I'm at 200. I think we're 269,000 as of today, with the highest engagement in my sector. And I've kind of become like a little miniature celebrity wherever yachts are of interest, which is nice because there's about like 10 cities in the world where I can walk down the street and be recognized by people, and they're all really nice places.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
I bet. So a lot of these like famous guys, rich guys with yachts, they know you obviously, and they're like, "Oh, what's up?"
Yeah, a lot of them do. Because they're so interested in it and it's so niche, and I've just kind of established myself as the guy. So yeah, they're always in my DMs. I get DMs from, famous people, A-listers, billionaires, centimillionaires, whatever, all the time. It's pretty crazy. Just to wake up some mornings and check my DMs and be like, oh shit, like so-and-so.
Oh man. Yeah. Are you allowed to say who hits you up, and are you allowed to say that stuff, or that's got to be confidential?
Yeah, most of it's confidential. Who DMs me, they're not really my clients. So yeah, I don't know. I'll say like TJ Watt texts me a fair bit. He's a really cool guy, especially for he's the highest paid defender in the NFL, and we talk. And then Jorge Posada, former.
Nice.
Rick Ross follows me. Conor McGregor follows me. Tom Brady interacts now, but I haven't got him to follow me yet. I think I mentioned his ex-wife's jiu-jitsu instructor in some of my posts, so maybe that's why I don't get the follow.
Yeah, he's down on the jiu-jitsu big time.
Yes, definitely, for sure.
Sebastian Maniscalco, Burt Kreischer. It's Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden.
Oh yeah, big list.
Oh yeah,
nice.
awesome.
No. So any of these guys that you meet in your world of like super yachts and billionaires, any of them grapplers, like you ever been like, oh my God, I grapple too. And then it's a whole thing.
It's rare. It's a niche within a niche. Occasionally you do though, because there's a lot of Russians and they all love that. It's in the Middle East, like who's the sheik that founded ADCC? Like they're around and they get it, and I think they respect it. Yeah. And then there's guys that work on the boats. Those guys aren't like, billionaires. They're just regular dudes who are active, and a lot of them are into it, especially as jiu-jitsu's gotten so popular. But I do have one buddy who owns a 154 footer, and he's down in between Miami and Montana, I want to say. And he's interested. He's like a white belt. He's like semi-interested in grappling, and we're trying to put together a grappling match. It's not really gonna be much of a match, but between me and Anthony Hernandez, who's the UFC middleweight takedowns leader all time. So we're gonna grapple on the boat next.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. We're trying to make a viral moment. Maybe like Zuckerberg grapples. So he's got a couple big boats. So there's that. We're trying to get.
Yeah, he's got to have mats on one of them, right? I mean, if he loves martial arts, he's got to have mats on.
He must. And I like write about it all the time, and I tag him. I'm always trying to get over there to train. I do know of a big.
Well,
let's
now
train, man.
I do know.
Now you have jiu-jitsu in common, and you have yachts in common. So that's
right.
Two.
And he's like basically my boss because I'm all on Instagram. So like I got to keep him happy. I do know of a 280 foot boat that's owned by Ukrainian guy that has a full dojo on it as well. So, like I said, that part of the world, they love martial arts. So that's it's important.
Oh, they do, man. Russian, those guys, the Uzbeks, the Tajiks, the Ukraine, all those guys love it. So for sure, man. So when you say like 150 footer or 200 footer, like there's tiers to this stuff, right?
It's so it's like grappling, levels and levels and levels, and like you always think are the top level.
Yeah. So let's run that down, and then like what that equates to in terms of like maintenance and the approximate income of each level. You could say like a blue belt. All right, he's been training for a couple of years. He could do these things. There's sort of like these milestones, right?
Yeah, sure. So the thing about boats is they are really expensive, and they're like the last thing you buy.
I bet
the last thing you buy because there's no real point to them. They're just kind of like
after jets,
excess money, and that applies to even
before or after jets.
After jets, because jets are a necessity. You can use jets for business, and like you have to get places, and like a lot of guys have jets that don't have yachts. Yeah. Yachts are after jets, and they're way more expensive. But with these things, like I tell people all the time, like I get caught up because I write about the really big boats, 300, 400, 500 footers that are owned by oligarchs and sheiks and, the Zuckerbergs of the world. But I have these followers that like, even if you own like a 40-foot center console, which is not a huge boat, but it's a nice boat. Like you're fucking rich. You gotta, that's like a, $1.5, $2 million boat or whatever. And you're spending, it's about 10% of that on operating costs annually. So you're, say,
well, it's 10% operating costs.
Rule of thumb. It depends how much you use the boat, and there's a bunch of other things. Some old salty guys will get mad at you when you say the 10% rule, but 10% is about give or take, right? So if you got $2 million,
what percentage of that is staff, and what percentage of that is
fuel, docking, maintenance, staff? There's insurance. There's all sorts of things that come into it. Like I wrote an article for the New York Times, and if you're interested, you can go look it up. It's called "How much does that oligarch's yacht cost?" Some of these boats, they're big enough. A paint job, which they need every 3 or 4 years, a paint job can cost $20 million. It's just insane. Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
Jeez, that's insane.
The sea destroys, man. The sea destroys everything.
The sea is constantly trying to take everything back and just make everything rot, and that makes boats super expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
So but even if you have a $2 million boat, which is not a huge boat, that means you have, give or take, $200,000 annually after taxes just to own the boat.
Wow. So if you were to pick any boat for yourself, right? Any yacht, like do you have like, all right, this is it?
Hard to say.
Just pick the biggest, most expensive.
There's a boat called Leva O. which is a 388-foot Abiking and Rasmussen built in Germany, which I think is the most beautiful large yacht out there. It's really cool. It's almost like it has like a brutalist design. It doesn't look like anything else on the water. I think it's awesome. That guy he's second generation, sells K rations or sells food. I guess they don't do K rations anymore because I got yelled at in the comments that said that.
Yeah.
But basically, he sells MREs or whatever to the U.S. military, and that's not that. It's always
people making money all sorts of different
crazy
ways.
Believe it. Like another one of my favorite boats is called Pink Shadow, and that's owned by a German guy. He's a fourth generation prosthetics company. His grandfather founded a prosthetics company in 1919 in Germany. So you can imagine he had clients built right in. And they do okay.
Yeah.
You know, their story.
Right.
I mean, it's really random shit. Like you think in your head, like, oh, the rich guys to like a normal person. And to me, before I got really deeply into this world, to me, like a rich guy was like an investment banker or a CEO. And those guys are they have a lot of money, right? That guy's worth like, 20, maybe 50 million max. But that's not the real wealth. The real wealth are like own shit, you know, like they own the land, has the oil on it, or they own 45 car dealerships, or, you know, or they own like a nickel mine. Mining is huge. Cars and parts are huge when you get up into these big boats, which people wouldn't think. There's some tech guys, there's the finance guys, like honestly, like even the biggest guys outside of Ken Griffin, who runs Citadel, and he's worth like 60. Citadel, yeah. Those guys really can't compete with, like, you know, the tech barons and the oligarchs and the sheiks, where it's just endless.
Yeah.
Fertilizer. Wow. So I said own shit. Some of these guys literally own shit.
Wow.
There are fertilizer barons, especially in Russia. They own and it's usually the poultry guys, because like they own all these chickens anyway, and they just convert the chicken shit into fertilizer, and they have fucking enormous boats. Just it's really interesting. Yeah.
I wonder if they have any humorous names given the industry they're in.
It's gotta be.
Boats?
Yeah. Like if you're literally a chicken shit oligarch.
I don't think of what no, I haven't heard any chicken shit names. I know of a boat. I guess I can say this. Yeah, I do know of a boat named Rocket, and so it's ROCKIT. And when they flick the lights off when they're partying, they can change the name of the boat to Fuck It. I'm not going to.
That's true. I got
his name, but if I said who he was, everybody listening to this would know who it was.
You're right. Wow. You're right.
So it's under my impression, right, that like at the lower tier, you know, yachts, like some of them, maybe they're stretching, so they can't truly afford it, so they rent it out or they charter it. But the higher you go on that list, they don't need to, so it just kind of stays. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yeah, you know, kind of. I wouldn't say anybody who owns a 200-foot boat and is chartering it out is stretching, but they are trying to offset their cost. There is a famous quote from Tillman Fertitta. You know, he's the cousin of the Fertitta brothers, founded the UFC, and he has a 252-footer Fed ship built in Holland, which is the best you can get. And he has said that if you have to charter your boat, you can't afford it, and that makes a lot of people roll their eye. There's level. Yeah, he's worth, I think, $6 billion, 252-foot Northern European boat. That's a big deal, having a Northern European built as opposed to Southern European. He's rich, but then, you know, he's compared to some of these guys, he's not rich. It's pretty crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. And you see all these guys, you get on the boat, your Instagram is really interesting because you get on these crazy yachts and you get to take videos and interact with all those guys. Like, what's that? That's gotta be nuts.
Yeah, those boats are crazy. So the largest boat I've ever been on was a 400-footer. That was actually last year. Owned by Shahid Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars and sells here's a weird one. He sells every truck bumper in the US. So if you own a truck, he sold the bumpers, Toyota or Chevy or Ford, whoever. Wow. And that boat was insane. It had a full spa on it. Like, it had a plunge pool, a hot sauna, dry sauna, fire pit, a cryogenic freezer, the whole deal. And then the back of it had this is kind of weird. It had a golden bust of a woman's face that was designed by AI to look like his mother, wife, and daughter all at the same time. So you can make of that. You will.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So I'm like used to it now, but the very first boat I got on in my career, big boat, was 16 years ago. I was like late 20s, and I went up to Bridgeport, Connecticut from New York City to get on the biggest boat that they still have ever built in America, and that was a 202-footer named Cakewalk. And I remember walking around and getting a tour, and there was a refrigerator, and I like stuck my head in and I commented like, "Oh, this is as big." Literally, it was as big as my bedroom on the Upper East Side, in like a rent controlled apartment. And I was like, "Wow, they must have a lot of food in here." And the designer goes, "Oh no, we don't put any food in here. The owner's wife likes fresh flowers at every port, so this is the flower refrigerator." And I was like, "Oh wow,
wow,
this is a different."
That's insane.
Completely off base.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You must see some
I
crazy
think
stuff
that's
on these
interesting.
boats, though, right?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I say you must see some crazy stuff on this boat, like parties and stuff, or
as press, I get invited to parties, but I feel like they're real parties that, people want to get salacious about there. They don't want journalists there. That's usually,
of course,
they have a couple of their boys and a lot of girls is what it is. But people think, here's the thing, like, here's the other thing that everybody thinks like, oh, it's just a bunch of like hookers and cocaine and whatever on all these boats and these parties. Like there is that for sure. There's anything you could imagine. Like some of the Diddy stuff happened on some yachts, a yacht that I've been on actually. But also a lot of times it's just families who are very successful hanging out, looking at their phones, like playing card games or whatever. It literally runs the gamut. So people always ask me like, what are really rich people like? And they kind of have this certain answer that they want to hear in their head, but the reality of it is that they're just like anybody else. They like, some of them are super cool, funny, honest, like hardworking people that you want to be around. And some of them are pieces of shit, but that applies to everybody across socioeconomic spectrum, right? Like there's poor people that are awesome to be around, and some are like criminals and like, you don't want to be around them. It's the same deal with
$1 million
in the bank. It really doesn't make a difference on your character. Although the money will reveal your character a little bit quicker.
Yes.
There's that whole saying that power corrupts. I don't think that's true. I think more accurately, you can say that power reveals.
It's like drinking. You're drinking and then you're an asshole. You're a super asshole, right?
I think a lot of people, when they think of yachts, like the guy in the street, they think of like Saturday Night Live, that digital short where like, I'm on a boat, that digital short. And then, which is like in your world of a relatively small boat. And, people they have the stereotype of what it means to have a yacht, be on a yacht, like, have that kind of lifestyle. And I feel like it's probably very mistaken, I mean, to some degree, there's probably a lot of misconceptions.
It depends how long you've had the money, really. Like if it's brand new, guys are stunting, they want to show the world, I did this, and I have this girl, and I have this boat, and like they might not even be on like the biggest boat in the world. Like the guys that really like party like that song are usually like day charterers, which is like the lowest possible.
Right.
But you could still get on one of those boats for reasonable costs, like one of these, like if you're a rapper or something and you could charter a boat for 20 grand and look like you
for sure. Like, especially down in Miami. They run day charters for these 80-foot boats, and people have these wild parties on them. There's whole like Instagram feeds that we'll track those. But that's really like the lowest rung. That's like buying a blue belt at like a McDojo. That's not the real deal.
Nah, one of those guys.
If you had to pick your top 3 or top 1, what do you think your most interesting experience have been in your career? So, because I'm sure like at some point, I would assume you can get jaded, right? Because you're looking at these things all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a few that stick out.
You do get jaded, and I have to like, honestly, I like try to be meditative about it and just like remind myself to be like grateful where I am, which I find very helpful, because you can, The fact of the matter is, I have the best job in the world. I fly all over the world, see some of the coolest, most expensive shit going. I talk to interesting people, famous or wealthy, if that's interesting to you, or adventurers and all this kind of stuff. So if I ever find myself being like, "Oh, this sucks," I have to like sit back and be like, "No, this does not suck." And like, if I talk like that with like some gratitude practices, I'll do that because like it's rare though, because I really do love my job. Like I'm very thankful. And a large piece of that is that I work for myself as well. Like it's so much, I would say to anybody, if you have a certain personality and a certain work ethic, that if you can work for yourself, you should, and just take that risk. Cause that has been one of the greatest amplifiers of my own happiness and satisfaction, both personally and professionally in my entire life. But I got away from your question. I went on a submarine. I took a personal submarine 1,000 feet deep off Curacao a couple of years ago for an article Times. And that was before the Titan implosion. So like
right. I remember you got called up for that because there was a lot of questions, right? And like, who's been on a submarine?
Well, I broke that story on my Instagram, the Titan implosion. Like all these, like CNN and Fox, and were like, "Oh, the countdown!" Like on the air ticker, they have 18 hours left, and I just called bullshit. I was like, "That thing is gone." And I spoke to people who kind of knew. And I was the first person to say it out loud, and that thing went super duper viral. So yeah, being on the sub was cool. I actually slapped a rear naked choke on the sub pilot. So I think I technically hold the world record for deepest choke.
The deepest choke.
That's a marketable thing. Deepest choke.
Well, judo guy, so he was all right with it. Yeah, he's a Dutch guy. Yeah, there's a picture of it too, which is pretty funny. So yeah, the submarine was cool. I did a profile of Bobby Knight, the Indiana basketball coach, some year, like 10 years ago in the Bahamas. We went bone fishing in a little flats boat for 3 days with him and his best friend, John Havlicek, who's also an NBA Hall of Famer. And Bobby Knight he passed recently. He's the most interesting person I've ever written about. He was just a huge personality. If you guys want to look that up, just Google Kevin Koenig, Bob Knight, fishing, and it pulled that. The story I ended up writing won tons of awards. It's probably the best thing I've ever written.
I mean, there's got to be some weird dynamic, right? Because you're a journalist, so they want to, for you to like them because they want a positive portrayal of themselves out in the world. But they're also so rich and like they have so much power. It's like, oh, you work for me also, right? Is that kind of a weird dynamic?
Yeah, that can get really weird. And especially one thing I've learned is that people really don't like reading about themselves. Like I like writing profiles the most because frankly, people are more about the boats. But I've had the most issues with people reading profiles about themselves and getting really pissed off.
Well, because it reveals their own hangups. It reveals more about them.
And the rabbit doesn't see itself running across the field, right? So they don't know. They might be seeing some things that they didn't realize about themselves that they may or may not like. Even never like try to like trash somebody. But yeah, Howard. A lady, female billionaire, that I was profiling, and she got hung up over. This lady's worth $1 billion. She had a big boat down in South Florida, and we did a photo shoot of her in her backyard, and it was like literally like a $500 photo shoot, like not that much. And she wanted to get photos for some reason she wanted the headshots, and then the photographer was like, "Oh, you don't have the rights." And she's like, "Oh, Kevin promised me the rights." I've never guarantee or promise anybody anything in this business. It was like and she like properly tried to like gaslight me, like with my boss's boss on an email thread. Kevin promised this, and I have like printed proof and text messages. I was like, "No, show us the text messages." And she's like, "No, it's an email." She was like, "I don't have the email." She said it. It was like over and over to the point where I was like, did I say that? Like, it sounded like something I would say. And like, this was like before people knew what gaslighting was, but it was like proper, like sociopathic behavior from this woman who it probably works. 95 times out of 100. I'm just very,
particularly if you've got the carrot of like, I'm going to give you business, or I'm going to, do whatever. Like, it just becomes this kind of vicious cycle of manipulation.
Power dynamics can never be, underestimated, especially when you have that much money. It's a whole deal. Like when you're a journalist, you're kind of in this nice area where it doesn't really matter. Like if I piss off a billionaire, it doesn't really matter, if you're a journalist, because it's kind of what you're supposed to do. Like you're investigating. If you're, selling boats and selling charters, you're really at their beck and call or anything. Like journalism is like the one field where like you're not, you're going to get paid either way when you say something nice or not. Most of these guys just have to kiss their asses all the time. And that
this must have made you somewhat philosophical, right? Because you're seeing the full distribution of wealth here, right? Like you obviously know plenty of normal people, right? And you're also seeing people at the tail end of the income distribution. And so I imagine this has got to impact your philosophy on just money, life, and happiness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my mother always told me growing up that all the money you need is the money you need to not have to worry about money. Once you get rich, there's really, once you hit a certain point, and I'm not breaking ground here. Once you hit a certain point of money, there's diminishing returns of what you get back from being, extremely wealthy. It doesn't make you any happier. Like there's, point to any rich person who's just miserable. It's more about your, how you feel about yourself, like all that kind of stuff. And money's not going to help you be happy in that sense. And I also have a theory similar to that, but with luxury, there's kind of a certain point you can hit where like you've hit the perfect piece of it. Like say, like a Porsche 911 is, expensive car, but it's not like $1 million. It's not a Bugatti, but it's a 200,000 or whatever.
No.
It drives incredibly well. It looks great. It's a super classy lines. And like you can spend 2, 3, 4, 5 times that, and the car's not going to get any better looking. It might get a little faster, but then you really drive it on the road. Like it's
right.
It's like if you, I used to write about liquor as well, like high-end liquors. Like, so take a Scotch. Like if you have a Macallan 25, which is a very expensive bottle, but a gettable bottle if you're celebrating something, I think it's a couple $1,000. That a 25 tastes like heaven. It's like the best. It's just like perfect. And that's how like, 18, 20, 25-year-old scotches are. They're really good. Once you get to the Macallan 50, which is like literally like $1,500 a shot, it just tastes like cognac because all the sugars. Like you don't get anything beyond just being like, oh, I got 50 and like, filling up some hole inside of you that you tell people you have. It's like that with everything. It's like a sweet spot for me.
Let me ask you a question. So when you go out to see like, the super high-end liquors, the super fashionable stuff, the yachts, there's got to be something that makes you want some of these things too, right? It's kind of like, when you're a grappler and you're watching some of the stuff, it's like, I want to get to the Olympics. And there's like this thing that kind of takes over. You don't have any of that?
I've been bitten by the watch bug. Like I like watches. But no,
How deep are you into watches?
Pretty deep. Love them. Yeah. I'm talking with a watch store in Greenwich right now to hopefully be ambassadorship program.
Yeah.
So I love watches. I have a Rolex Datejust. I'm hoping to get a Rolex Explorer 2 Polar very soon, but I also have my eye on
that's a nice one.
Are you
don't like subs? You're on a yacht all day. Like
every yacht broker in the world who sold their first boat goes out and buys a sub. So I just can't do that.
Yeah. I went with the Sea Dweller instead of the regular.
The Sea Dweller's dope.
I mean, I had a regular sub back in it's a little bit bigger. It's not like it's not massive. It's like a 43 mil. It's kind of perfect. I'm a heavy guy.
Yeah, it's a 43. It's got that big. I like the Sea Dweller a lot. I would wear a Sea Dweller. Yeah. But it's kind of like I like the Polar as well. That's a big watch. But it's kind of a flex in and of its own self. So like I'm a pretty big guy. I can wear a Polar, whereas like a lot of people can't. Look huge on that. Maybe.
No.
I'll tell you what watch I really see. Yeah. Glashütte Original?
Yes. Yeah.
Brand, they have a dive watch, a 43 millimeter called the CQ Panorama Date, which I tried it on the other day, and I was like, "Oh my, this is beautiful!" Like it just spoke to me.
Yeah.
So that's that's in competition with the Polar right now.
Nice. So there's a little bit of that design, but you must be around crazy watches because you go on these things and you're like, oh my God, you're wearing like a Richard Mille or whatever it is.
Crazy watches. But a Richard Mille is a perfect example of what I was just talking about. Like Richard Mille is an ugly watch, and it's like, to me, it's just like I would never in a million years wear that watch. But like, once you hit a steel Daytona, after a steel Daytona or like a Vacheron Overseas, like maybe a Nautilus, like then it just starts to get diminishing returns. Like I said. Being around.
Sure. You don't want a boat?
It'd be very low on my list of things to get. Honestly, I have a lot of friends with boats, so that kind of scratches that itch.
Even better.
That's what you want.
Yeah. So let me ask a question. There's a saying, right? It's like the 2 happiest days of owning a boat is the day you buy it, the day you sell it.
Yep.
Is that the same with these guys or not really? Because they have everything. It's fine.
I think that probably translates across the spectrum. It's a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys, they buy boats like chronically. Like there's one guy down in Florida, John Staluppi, who another interesting guy. He was a Brooklyn auto mechanic, high school dropout, I believe, and used all his savings for like fixing cars to buy a Honda dealership in the early 70s, like right before the OPEC crisis. So nobody knew what Honda was.
Oh, right. So he got in
all of a
early
sudden, nobody can afford gas anymore. And this guy owns at this point a couple Honda dealerships, and these things are like the most fuel efficient, cheap cars that will run forever on no gas. And that guy's worth billions, but he buys boats every 6 months. He just runs through them.
Wow.
It's every single James Bond movie.
Wow,
so this
sort
of brings me, that actually begs a question, because I know you've written on this, changing of the guard and people sort of placing yachts in different locations that they want to be in, and generational change and these buying habits. Has it become more rational, less rational, not rational at all because it never has been? Like, you know what I'm saying? How has that changed?
There's 2 answers to that question, right? So as the baby boomer generation dies off, there's this enormous transfer of wealth that's never happened before. It's trillions of dollars being handed down to people that are, my age or maybe just a little bit older. And that's a young yacht owner. So they don't want to do, Saint-Tropez and St. Bart, which is like, the normal places a yacht would be. Like I would want to go to the South Pacific or like Antarctica or somewhere cool. And that's where they're going, where you can like dive with leopard seals or like do a charter trip based around surfing, which is what I would do. That'd be my dream charter. And so they're tracking out all these new destinations that are interesting. And it's the way the boats are probably getting a little too into the weeds, but the boats are being designed to be more for younger people with like more outdoor spaces and pools and things like that, as opposed to like enclosed dining areas, which are like the typical stodgy yacht that you picture like from over.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what was the second piece of that answer? Oh yeah. As far as rational purchases, like this shit has gone haywire. Like we're living in, I don't know if people realize this, but we're living in a second Gilded Age. Like the amount of wealth that has accumulated basically since COVID at the very stratospheric layers of wealth is incomprehensible to a normal person. And it makes even wealthy people, like the millionaires, are getting squeezed out right now. It's like the billionaires, and even like these guys who are worth like 1 billion, like, yeah, I get 1 billion, you're not struggling, but like you're not competing with the guy who has 40, 50, 60, $100 billion. Like it's a different person, and people are buying. Yeah. It's not uncommon. In fact, it's a trend right now for people to be not just buying one 300-foot boat, but be buying like 3 at a time. So they can keep one in one destination. One has a submarine on it. And like, one has the chefs or the hookers or whatever they have, like follows them. It's really,
I mean, are these things scarce? Like there's gotta be, like in airplanes, like they have like the Airbus and the Boeing and it's a duopoly. There's gotta be something similar in the yachting world too, right? There can't be that many companies making it. They can't probably produce, so many of these a year, right? So there's a scarcity alongside the demand, or like what is that?
No, there's actually tons of mega yacht builders. There's a lot of rich people out there. The ones that are highest in prestige are in Holland and Germany. And for big boats, there's only like 4 or 5 of those. Like they're building over, let's say 250 feet or so. Once you go to Italy
Yeah.
and Turkey, the boats are on average 40 or even 50% the cost of what a Dutch boat would cost, for example. And there's so many goddamn Italian and Turkish boat builders, you'd be shocked.
Wow, that's a huge surprise because no one's making airplanes for a commercial flight, you know, like, or right, it's Airbus and Boeing.
Yeah, I believe that the airline industry has a lot more regulations, though. I know at least when you're flying on a private jet, like that private jet industry is a lot more regulated than yachting. So I assume that has something to do with it. But yeah, even I don't exactly know how it works in Europe, but I know in Florida, like if you want to be a boat builder, you can basically just like hang up your own shingle. You don't need much beyond just like wanting to build a boat. The best fishing boats in the world are all built in these two tiny towns in North Carolina. I'm talking like tiny, like 8,000 people. And
Really?
it's just these like good old boys who are all competing with each other to like build like what they think is the best boat.
The craziest fishing
Like
boat.
they're full custom. They're made out of wood, which is rare for boats that size. And they get Michael Jordan famously just bought one. You know, Michael Jordan's got a big mega yacht. He's got a 230 footer or whatever it is, and he's 80-foot fishing boat, which is just like the coolest thing going. It's like having a pickup truck on the water. The other fast. Like you got the boys on there. You catching big 1,000 pound tuna or whatever.
Is this what you keep saying? The European mind cannot comprehend. Are those the boats you're talking about?
I have a string of posts that I do where I'd say the European mind cannot comprehend this, and it's always about a big fishing boat like that because the Europeans don't fish like that. The fisheries don't support it, and like they don't understand it. They always like think the boats are.
And they just think it's stupid. They just look at it like this is the dumbest boat
It's
I've
very
ever
much
seen.
an American phenomenon. Yeah, you'll find them in Australia as well and in South America, but that's usually American-owned boat. It's like a very hunting, fishing crowd type guy on their boat.
Yeah, I
The
bet.
equivalent of the American tourist.
Trucks, you know, and you see the guys who they drive their like $200,000 pickup trucks or whatever, and they get on their $10 million fishing boat and they go out and fish, drink beer.
Yeah, just to bring it back a touch to the martial arts. Have you ever had to use your jiu-jitsu on a boat aside from the deepest rear naked on the submarine?
No, I've never had to use my jiu-jitsu. I guess thankfully, although we all kind of like hoping to use it a little bit. No, I've never had to use my jiu-jitsu. I think it does help though. I honestly like the yachting industry, probably surprising to a lot of people, is like a very macho masculine industry. There's a lot of big egos, and there's a lot of drinking, and there's a fair bit of shady characters as well. It's a lot of con men. And just like aggressive types. And I think the fact that people know that I'm pretty highly trained, and I talk about it on my channel a lot too, because I'm passionate about it. I think that certainly helps a little bit, like that in the back of their mind, like, oh, this guy might do something if I like.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's running up on me in the docks and getting in my face, which does happen.
What's the staff like? That's got to be a whole nother thing, right? Because I see like sometimes like I'm on a yacht as a staff, and I've seen that on like Instagram and such. Like those guys must be getting put through the ringer.
Yeah,
right?
working on a boat is not easy. You're at the beck and call of very wealthy, extremely demanding people, basically 24/7. They're working 18-hour days on the water, which is exhausting in the sun. Like, you can imagine. I mean, I don't know how much time you spend on a boat, but just being on a boat is tiring because your core is always engaged because it's rocking. They're tired on boats. Plus, they're in the sun. Plus, it's long days, very demanding schedules. You never know. The client's always right. You never know what the client's going to be like, and a lot of those clients, they get some drinks, or they get whatever else in their system, and it's not great. And then they deal with. Some captains can be abusive, and like it's a really hard job. I've never seen below deck, so don't even ask me about that. But it's significantly less glitzy in a lot of ways than people would probably realize. The upside of being crew is that they have no expenses at all. Everything is paid for, even when they're on land. If they go out to the bar with their friends when they're on land and they're working, it's covered. They'll pay for clothes or anything or housing. The housing's covered, so like can stack a lot of money pretty quickly as a young kid without a ton of education. Trick is for men and women is that you got to have an exit plan, because you don't want to be working on a boat past 30 unless you want it to be your career. Which if you want to be a captain, career, you can make a lot of money. It's a hard life. Most captains are good guys and extremely jobs and professional, but it's a hard life. You're at sea, you don't have
I bet.
So if it were,
but it's not like year round that you're on the water though, right? Because I mean, if you're a rich guy with a yacht, you're not on there 365. You're kind of like, oh, I'm gonna go on vacation. You're off the thing, right?
Typically about 6 months, but that's a lot when you're working that hard, and then you got to get something landed.
Yeah, 6 months.
And a lot of them will get back on a boat and working on another boat, or whatever it is they're doing. So being crew is tough, but you do get to see the world. And if you're smart about it, a lot of the most successful brokers make investment banking money. Those guys, if they're good at it, can make a ton of money. And a lot of them learned the ropes when they were crew, and those guys know the boats inside and out. It'd be like going from being a mechanic to a car salesman. That's going to be a good car salesman, assuming he knows how to sell, right? They just know the product. So there's definitely upsides to being crew, but it's a really hard job, and I think a lot of people, the industry's actually, I've written about this with the Wall Street Journal. The industry's having a problem finding good crew because, as I said, with the second Gilded Age and so much more money being in circulation, the super yacht fleet worldwide has expanded faster than they can find good help to do it. So like it's a miniature crisis, a champagne problem for sure, but a miniature crisis within the industry.
Are they turning to automation to help with that? I mean, I'm sure technology has also grown by leaps and bounds on these things. I know you've written about just internet on yachts changing, the game.
Starlink has changed yachting in incredible ways. Like, they just wrote about this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Elon Musk is having an enormous impact on yachting, even though he doesn't own a yacht. And it's because, up until Starlink came around, like 2-3 years ago, whatever it was, even if you were the richest guy on earth, you couldn't get good cell service on a boat in certain parts of the world, right? It would cut out. And the way that affects you when you're, running a business, say, and you want to be on your yacht, you can't be on your yacht as much. You have to go back to the land, or, if you have a meeting in New York, a board meeting in New York City, you can't take it from the south of France on your boat because you're going to cut out. So you got to fly back to New York. Now with Starlink, just such better signal and so much cheaper. These guys are basically living on their boats and running their businesses from the boats. So I have an article in the Wall Street Journal magazine in October called "Working from Yacht," and it's a proper changing design of boats because they can spend more time in them. So the boats are getting bigger, and it's changing destinations. You can go to. I talked to a guy who took a call from literally a conference call from the South Pole. Took his boat down to Antarctica, and then they dog sledded him or something 700 miles to the South Pole, and he took a conference call there just as a flex, I suppose.
Wow.
That's quite a flex right there.
That's pretty cool.
And I have a buddy who didn't want to be interviewed for that article, but he owns a, about 160 footer or so. And he's spending the whole summer in the Med. He's still there. He's coming back in a couple of weeks, and he's running his very large auto business from there. And has not been home, not been in the States once that I know.
It's amazing how these have these knock-on effects, right?
I did a post. I don't know if you guys saw last year. There were all these fires and crashes and stuff like that, especially in the Mediterranean. And I did a post that was like Elon Musk is responsible. I was kind of trolling a little bit, but I was like, Elon Musk is responsible for these. And it was only because, granted, people have phones in their hands now, so they can get a video of a yacht burning or whatever. But it's really the amount of time you spend on a boat increases the chance of something bad happening, right? Because you're at sea and can be a risky. You have big machines, you have crazy weather, you have these batteries and these toys that catch on fire. And now Starlink, everybody's on their boat all the time. So the amount of incidents like that has to increase, even if relatively it's not a proper increase. So I wrote a post, Elon Musk responsible for this boat burning, and I love trolling. I troll the Europeans a lot, and I troll Elon Musk fanboys all the time. And I just have a blast with it.
Well, this has been fascinating. I feel like we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. I can talk forever if you can't tell. Once you get me started talking about boats or jiu-jitsu, I'll just go.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for
Yep.
listening. Thank you, Kevin, for sharing something that is most people have literally no idea, and your comments kind of just on this new Gilded Age. I mean, you can talk about it in the news, but I don't think people really understand it for good reason,
Hard-
right?
it's hard-
Because we're talking about like
hard
orders
to
of
understand
magnitude.
unless you see it. And I'm just around it all the time, and it's like it's a real thing. It's like these people have
Yeah.
endless wealth.
Yeah.
Who knows what it's going to look like 20 years from now? It's probably going to end up with real problems worldwide.
Right.
When a lot of people can't afford to live, and some people are buying 300-foot boats. But cross that bridge when we get to it.